Good afternoon, Bill Chapman again with our regular Capital Update video, and I'm pleased today to have CBA member, attorney, and state legislator Craig Fishbein from the wonderful 90th District. Where's that, Craig?
It's in Wallingford in Cheshire.
Okay, I interrupted. I should have said welcome first.
Hello, everybody.
Okay, so Wallingford and Cheshire. Where'd you go to school?
I originally went to, if we're talking college, I originally went to Southern, and I was there for about a year and a half, traditional path, and sort of decided that college wasn't the thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I dropped out and I went and worked in retail for about 10 years, and realized that probably couldn't prosper in that. I got to like the upper echelons, and then I went to Quinnipiac to get my undergrad.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was there, I decided to go to law school. So I did really well when I got my undergrad as a super adult. I think I was 27 or 28, and they gave me a scholarship to go to law school, a small scholarship, which incentivized me.
Yeah.
And that's where I ended up going to law school too.
Okay, so one of these mature YLS type of people, young lawyers, but a little bit older.
Yes, sir.
So it's, I think you're the first person who I've interviewed this particular session who actually didn't go right to law school. Took a little time to figure out what he wanted to do, and now. How did you get involved in politics? I mean, it was one thing to get involved in law school, and then we'll get back to what you were practicing. But how did you get involved to eventually get here?
Politics was always interesting to me. I was always, I grew up a Democrat. I was very interested in what was going on. 2007 or so, I started to see at least our national economy start to take a turn.
Mm-hmm.
So I got involved, and by that time I had changed to Republican. So I started to go to my local town committee meetings, and I wasn't a member, but I would just go, see what was going on in town.
You'd bother them, huh?
Yeah, and in fact, the first time that I tried to get on the town committee, they didn't vote me in.
Okay.
And then I said, well, I want to run for office, so I ran for the town council.
Mm-hmm.
And they told me originally that I couldn't because I hadn't done enough for the party.
All right.
And I went out and I raised more money than anybody else. And I did really well.
Mm-hmm.
And not only the state legislature, but now I'm also on the Wallingford Town Council too. And this is my 5th term on the Wallingford Town Council.
And it's 2-year terms?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So 10 years on the town council.
Yes.
And then somebody decided not to run in the legislature? Is that how that worked?
Well, in 2009, I had expressed an interest in running against Mary Mashinsky.
All right.
I was in her district at that time. And about 2 months later, the redistricting map came out.
Yep.
And suddenly I was not in Mary Mashinsky's district anymore. Mary Fritz and I and her family have been very, very close for years. I grew up with her family.
Mary Fritz was one of the sainted members up here in the legislature.
Yeah. And, it's sort of the stars sort of crossed. She announced that she wasn't running, and I seized the opportunity. I did well. So.
And now this is, how many years you've been here now?
This is my 2nd year, my 1st term.
First term. And we have a few first termers, and we know that Craig will continue running as long as he can. And there's he'll have more seniority next year. He'll most likely become a vice chair of a committee or possibly ranking. Depends on how the election goes.
Just so that you know, I actually outrank my other freshmen now. And the reason being is that I was also in a special election.
Oh, okay. Great.
So last time on the ballot, there was actually 2 columns. You had to vote for me twice.
All right.
Because I was on a special and a regular. So I got sworn in earlier
Okay.
than the other members of the freshman class.
Okay. So he's, grabbing his seniority pretty quickly here. It's so practice in law. What do you have any? Are you a jack of all trades or?
I'm a litigator.
Okay.
When you say jack of all, I'm like 75 to 80% family law,
All right.
and then general civil litigation would be the rest. I love being in court, preparing for cases, examining witnesses. I especially love, although it's been infrequent, going to the appellate court.
Okay.
The reason being is that I've got a panel that have reviewed a case that I'm been immersed in, that I know, and you're going there to have an intelligent discussion about something in that case. And I find that to be fascinating.
All right.
So,
All right.
very invigorating.
Yeah, and for somebody who had his own roadblock going to school and say, "Hey, I'm jumping out of this," and then being in the real world for a good 10 years, then going back to school, there's got to be that interest, that book interest, and it sounds so like you like to do that researching and getting the case taken care of. How do you spend your time on the town council? You've got a law practice, and you're up here every day. You never miss meetings. We always hear your voice asking questions. That's one of the things about Craig, is that he always gets down to the bottom of things, because he's the guy that you hear at some point in a discussion, you're going to see his name come up because he's asking questions. And it's probably that's one of the things about attorneys is they know how to ask questions.
They also know how to read the language that's before us. I mean, we're trained to do that. Stuff jumps off the page when something is wrong many times, whereas for a layperson that doesn't happen. That they bring their passions from a different direction. But up here, we write, review, revise statutes, and that's what lawyers are trained to do.
Right.
So I bring that talent per se to the building, humbly said.
Okay. And well taken. Craig sits in a spot where he's got an attorney on either side of him in the chamber, and I'm sure that they're badgering each other here and there about who's going to ask the question, and it's usually Craig asks the question. Whether it be something that the Judiciary Committee has already discussed and they might be 41-0, Craig's going to wind up with the question on the bill anyways. And it's something that we continue to need up here. How do you find the time to get all three of them? Plus, he plays hockey. He does the Tough Mudder. He's all of these. Plus, he's married. It's not like he's got all this time in the world. But maybe he only does 2 hours of sleep a night.
I guess I have to give credit to Microsoft Outlook, because it's a lot of juggling. It's a lot of scheduling. It's a lot of prioritizing. I've been fortunate over the last year. I haven't had to file a lot of motions for continuance until last week. And the judges have been good with my schedule and that kind of stuff. It's prioritizing and time management, ultimately.
So it's the type of thing that anybody who's not anybody, but people who have an interest, who are watching this, other CBA members, that it is something that's doable. And at the end of the session, you tend to survive. You're still able to run your practice. You're still able to go out and play hockey.
Love hockey.
Yeah. So it's Bruins won last night. So it's something that other folks, if they have any questions, if they're interested in running, not against Craig, but at least having the particular discussion of possibly running and how you do it.
Although I'd welcome a debate against another CBA member.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, Craig, thank you very much. Really
No problem.
appreciate your time
Thank you.
and what you've shared with the with our other members. And we'll see you. We'll see you the next time.